is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Dark Tower, Book 7, The Dark Tower, Part 3, Chapters 1 and 2. In this haze of green and gold is the name of Part 3. Chapter 1 is Mrs. Tassenbaum Drives South. Chapter 2 is called Veskagan, and I'm, drawing this part out so that I don't have to talk about what actually happened in these two chapters. Plus side, always alive. Welcome to Unspoiled. Oi?
Yeah.
I don't remember what I said. I can't decide on anything.
Oh man, there were a couple times in these two chapters when I was like, oh shit, now's the time where Oi gets it! And if nothing else, I was like, alright, well, Oi's gonna stay behind and die. Like, Roland talks about that choice.
Yeah, I didn't think he would do that. I thought, if anything, Oi would, Jake jumps in front of Roland, Oi jumps in front of Jake, and Oi gets crushed by a car, just barely saving Jake's life.
Oh, that would make sense.
And then maybe Jake kills Van Driver, which would have been kind of satisfying. Because that guy's terrible, and I hate him.
How dare you talk about Shimi that way?
Don't even... You know what? Throwing that in there was so shitty and unnecessary, and that is, the one thing that I really hated about this. Otherwise, I thought this was all written super well.
Yeah, it's really good.
But that little, Shimi, and he doesn't actually say they could have been twins, but he comes really close.
He basically does, right?
He uses some other word. You know how he do.
Yeah, he says,
Hi, everyone, I'm Natasha.
Oh, hi, I'm Miles. How are all you guys? It says Shimi could be Brian Smith's litter twin.
Yeah, see? I knew it was something that he said weird.
Litter twin? I guess because they're dogs? I don't know.
They're puppies.
I mean, I would like to think my dog is smarter than this individual. So
I would like to think Shimi is smarter than this individual.
Oh, Shimi definitely is.
I found that insulting. Don't compare them. Don't even talk about it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But yeah, this, so for the record, I believe Jake is dead.
Okay.
This one I buy.
This one you buy. Why do you buy this one?
Because he didn't fucking prattle on about it for 6 chapters ahead of time. Honestly, that's why. I don't feel like he was just trying to manipulate me the entire time.
Sure.
There was a little, momentary, he suddenly realized what Jake had been feeling, and it was that somebody had to die. But that was so close to when they actually catch up, that when I read that, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Because that seemed very true. And I was still, obviously, as it happened, hoping, maybe he'll pull through. Yeah, half his body's gone.
I also and the other thing that I found really effective in these chapters as opposed to others was when they do realize, when Roland realizes that Jake has realized that one of them has to die, Roland is like, well, it's gonna be me this time, and fuck all the rest of you. Because I am not letting this shit happen again. And it's it's not... It's foreshadowing in that it sets up stuff that happens later and makes it, way more, narratively dramatic. But it's not a random, note from the editor.
Right.
The guy, he moved the gun into his pocket, thereby moving us closer to this sad story that I am telling, but don't want to. It's it's like,
yeah,
no.
Again, it doesn't feel manipulative.
Right, and it feels absolutely true to Roland's character to this point, which is like he has officially come around on this whole adopted dad thing, and he's already lost one of his sons, or so he thinks. So it made sense, and it wasn't just foreshadowing for the sake of foreshadowing.
Yeah, and as you point out, like, it's within his character, and even more, it changes the way that Roland attacks the situation. Whereas the foreshadowing before didn't feel like it actually changed anything.
Right.
Because it wasn't like they just kind of were like, well, probably somebody's going to die. What are you going to do?
Right.
And they just went into it, doing their best, but accepting that there was some kind of risk, and it wasn't really very helpful to know because there were 4 of them. So you can't have your eyes all over all the time. But because he gets this insight and it's just the 2 of them, and one of them is somebody that he has betrayed already and who has died twice, one time by being run over, BT dub, so that seems unfair that he had to do that again.
Right.
It made his insight matter because it changed how he handled this whole situation. And, also moves forward the way that we see Roland, because he has been, as he puts it himself, thinking back, heartless. And here, he actually says that he cares about Jake more than he cared about Susan Delgado.
Right.
Which is a massive thing, and he cries a lot.
Yeah,
which is
he does
a massive
lot of
thing.
crying, and he cares about Jake more than Eddie or Susannah. Mm-hmm. He just does.
Yep.
And when they went into the Devar toy fight, and they were all getting the Kashum thing, Roland's like, well, one of us is gonna die. But like 50-50, it's going to be one of the ones I'm okay with. So.
Right? Yeah, that too.
So like, I'm not saying he doesn't care about them, obviously, but like when it comes down to, it's going to be me or the kid, there's no question, and it makes it so fucking heartbreaking when he tries to sacrifice himself for Jake and he can't because his hip gives out.
And the hip giving out because of the accident that's about to happen, which
right.
also seems extra unfair.
Right. It's Stephen King's hip pain. Well, how do you feel about that?
I kind of like it and kind of don't. I think I fall more on the side of liking it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it.
But I'm kind of undecided, but like in a lot of ways I do feel like it's an interesting... That's something that I'm trying to think where else I've seen it, where people have like a sensory thing that's like a foreshadowing, but the audience doesn't know is a foreshadowing. And like we start to realize, like it's mentioned that, probably it's due to a connection to King's injuries a few chapters ago.
Right.
But it's still, it starts 2 books ago, I think.
It started at the beginning of, or maybe not even at the beginning of, but at some point in book 5. So the first book post-accident.
So book 5 is the one where because he gets the cat oil.
Yeah.
From that lady.
From Rostalita.
So yeah, it's a long setup, and that's something that I kind of like, where it's like a little twinge twinge here is literal, but it doesn't always have to be, that kind of signals something weird, but the person experiencing it doesn't understand it, the audience doesn't necessarily understand it, and it doesn't have to really play a huge part like it does here, where it affects how the very final scene plays out. But once you realize what it is, you're like, oh, yeah. I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be something that really matters for it to work. But the fact that it does really matter kind of is fucked up.
Well, and it's, yeah. And it's all very I think it works mainly because it fits with the theme of this part of the story that we're telling. Because, like, this is all about... And at some point, I'm sure we'll go back and talk about Irene Tassenbaum and all the other shit that happens in some semblance of chronological order. But it's very tied in with the, like... This whole... Especially that whole second chapter is like, fuck you, King. Like, you just couldn't do it, could you? You just couldn't do what you were supposed to do. And, like, that's the whole... That idea is, like, the larger environment surrounding the events of the chapter. So I like that it fits in really well with that. Because it's like, oh, even the thing that prevented me from making this ultimate act of self-sacrifice for my surrogate son was because of you.
Yep.
I am wondering...
There's a lot of reasons to hate Stephen King. These couple of chapters.
There's a lot of reasons to hate Stephen King in this book.
That's fair. I'm sure he would kind of agree with you on that.
I have no doubt. Somebody mentioned, I think, I don't know if I brought this up or not. I might have. No, I think I did. Never mind. Just cut that up. That's awful. That's just, like, awful.
All right.
I was like, did I mention this thing? And then the memory came to me. I was like, yes, I did. We talked about it. I was going to talk about the thing where, like, he's admitted that he maybe should go back and rewrite the last three.
Oh yeah, well I've read David Kehoe too, like, who had written into the Facebook page and said that King has talked about rewriting them because he feels like they should be one long novel instead of a series of novels, and that he might cut himself out of it if he decided to do that. So
yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of problems that aren't him in the series. Honestly,
like, cutting himself out of it. I have more of a problem with the fight with the wolves and the fight at Algo Santo. Like, this
Demon Baby and Mordred and Walter and
these two chapters of fighting against time and jumping between POVs were tense as fuck.
Oh, it's so good.
This is him at his best, I think, is writing like this. So the idea of losing this in favor of more whatever bullshit, I don't really think is the way to go. But I don't know. Maybe he'll get a good editor this time.
Maybe. Yeah, I think... Did you notice the part... Well, one thing I was wondering about, and again, specifics, but did you notice the part where he's like, man, I can't put in any made-up words because my editor will just take him out. My editor will just cut them all out. I know he will.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, where the fuck were you, man?
Yep.
Taking out all the nonsense words. What happened?
Well, do you know what I think? Is that he did cut out a bunch. So, thank you, sir, for good looking out.
It's like the whole book would have just been written in another language.
You know? If these last couple books are more evidence of what they all would have been like, then you helped us a little, I guess.
Very true.
But yeah, so yeah, this starts off with them, and Jake had like meant to grab his bag, but he left it behind, which I forgot to mention when we finished the last chapter, and they cross. But when they get there, he's at least got away. Keeps away from falling with superhuman speed.
Which is fun.
Yes. And they land right in front of the same place that they came last time. Or not they, it was Roland and Eddie at that time.
Yeah.
And it's the same little general store run by the same dude who sure fucking remembers Roland, let me tell you.
I really like the fact that in this guy's mind, that encounter is this massive event.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, his business got shot up by like 30 people.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
It's a massive event.
No. I'm not saying it's unreasonable to think that. I just really enjoy the fact that, like, it's such a massive event that him having it kind of in the back of his mind all the time is expressed really well in the context of his everyday activities. You know what I mean? Like, he's just doing his thing, he's ringing up this lady, and, like, something makes him think of that day. because everything makes you think of that day, because it's that day. And then Roland walks in, and it's like, oh, shit.
I like that, too, where he's like, he saw him, and he's like, I fucking knew I was going to see you again, motherfucker. Yeah. Like, it's been such a long time for him that I'm sure you get to a point where you start to doubt your gut.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, maybe I'm just... And then the guy walks in, and you're just like, fuck. And, of course, still got his gun. Now he's got a different dude with him. And an animal.
Right.
What the hell's going on?
A not dog.
I didn't expect for Roland to be quite so aggressive with the guy right off the bat. Like, Roland shoots in the air, I guess, to keep him from leaving, which I thought was weird because he could literally have asked anybody, where is Turtleback Lane? And do you have a what do you call it? Vehicle. He could have asked anybody there, but he decided to go after this dude again. And I really think that's just because he despises the guy, in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's because, Roland really kind of, and this chapter does a nice job of illustrating it, reminding us, Roland kind of sees, like, the rest of humanity basically as a collection of power-ups.
Okay.
Like, either you can be useful to him and therefore you were put into his path by Ka, or you don't matter. And
so there are some people who are like going to be sidekicks, but then there are just like some NPCs who are just like in the background.
Yeah.
Kind of to trade with.
Like the people that are his buddies, like obviously they're more than that, but like everybody else, he's like, how can I use you? Are you a power up? Are you a thing that can help me in my quest? Mm-hmm. Or are you nothing? And I think he showed up here and he's like, all right, there's a power up here somewhere.
Right. You can feel it.
That guy's running, it could be him.
The music's gotten faster. I know something's happening. I just need to figure out what it is.
Yeah. We just got to the first level. There's always a power-up at the first level of the new adventure. Like, let's...
So, it turns out to be this woman, Irene? Is her name right?
Yeah, Irene Tassenbaum.
She's great.
She is great.
I really like her. She is very excited to be, like, doing something other than hosting a party and being supportive of somebody else's work and dreams. And she has... the only thing is that she is a little panicky at first, understandably. And Roland, when she realizes that she hasn't driven stick before, and this is like a big deal, what's happening, she can feel that.
Yeah.
Roland has to quasi hypnotize her into calmness so that she can get the fucking truck on the road.
Yes.
And it turns out to be a good thing that she didn't know how to drive at first, because they just missed getting totally T-boned by a big truck.
I don't think he does the bullet trick on her. He just kind of captures her with his eyes, because you know he can do that. But yeah,
what a
it definitely.
Dreamboat.
I mean, there's some of that going on.
Definitely some of that.
This chapter is also about reminding you that Roland fucks a lot. Yeah.
I said something like a little while, like a couple books ago or one book ago, about Roland fucking somebody, and Owen was like, oh, it's weird to think of Roland having sex. He doesn't, and I was like, babe, Roland fucks all the time. What are you talking about? Like, the whole first half of the first book is just how much he nails the bartender lady. Like,
that's right.
Over and over.
Yeah, he gets Rosalita in Calibran Sturgis.
Mm-hmm.
He's got at least one more, I'm sure.
Then he has all of his stories about Susan, where it's just fucking all day long.
Just all kinds of fucking. And he's got that prostitute that he went to after he got his he won his spurs or whatever for the first time.
He's got a demon.
He's got a demon. That's true. Does some fucking with the demon. That's how we got the spider baby.
I'm trying to, because I think there was another one, but I can't think who now.
I feel like there was, but I'm missing it. I don't know. He was like recovering from illness for a long time there, so you can't blame the guy.
But yeah, so this woman gets them on the road, and like the second, because I've told you that I read King's On Writing,
yes,
which a lot of it is a memoir, and I remember him describing a blue van being what hit him. So they say the narration is a blue van swung out onto the road ahead of them, and I was like, fuck, they're behind the guy. This sucks. And then, not only are they behind the guy, they get off the road the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because since I know that this guy is the one, he takes off down another road, and they keep going down towards Turtle Bay, and I'm like, no! Follow him! Oh my god! And so I'm completely aware the entire time, and when they get to the house and Jake's like, he's not here, I'm like, no fucking die, idiots! What's the matter with you? There's no reason they should have known that, but like, I was super frustrated.
Even when, like, if you didn't know that it was a blue van that hit him, mm-hmm. there's some kind of fucking bit where like Irene sees the blue van, and she's like, "Huh, that's funny," and it does like a really soft version of the foreshadowing thing. Where is it?
I don't remember that. Are you sure?
Yeah, it totally does. Hold on.
Because that was part of what I noted was when he swings out in front of them, it just says a blue van swung out in front of them, and there wasn't much more to be said about it at the time.
Oh, no. I know this is a thing.
Let me see. I keep meeting useful people here.
Yeah, here it is. I found it.
Okay.
So they get behind the blue van, and the blue van starts to like pull away from them, and they notice how it's like swaying a little bit. Mrs. Tassenbaum almost committed a bon mot, something about people who started drinking before 5, but then the blue van pulled back into the northbound lane, breasted the next hill, and was gone toward the town of Level. Mrs. Tassenbaum forgot about it. She had more interesting things to think about. For instance, and then she asked if they're walk-ins.
Oh, you know what? I don't think I understood what that meant. Committed a bon mot? What even is that? What does that mean?
It's like a witty remark. Why you would commit it, I think, is a play on, like, trying to be funny. Like, I almost committed the joke in this situation, you know what I mean?
Okay, that's weird. Yeah, that's why I didn't notice that, because I'm looking this up now.
It's very soft. It just the story, the narrative notes that she saw it, and then notes that she forgot about it.
Gotcha.
And usually when he does that, it's like, oh shit, don't forget about things.
Straight across the white line. Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that either. That straying across, that was saying like he was, weaving. I thought that the van was still getting onto the road.
Right.
So, like, yeah, that whole little section, I didn't even, like, realize that was signaling.
Irene is really happy to be, like, living a life all of a sudden. And we get kind of pictures. A lot of these chapters are from her perspective. And so we know that her husband is a famous computer programmer. We first meet her, she's ranting about Al Gore because he claims to have invented the internet.
Yep.
And it was her husband who did it, damn it. And it's like, the more you get to know her, the more you kind of get the feeling that first meeting she was kind of on autopilot. Like, this is just how she goes about her day.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it seems like her life is small talk, so you probably just have the same standards that you always go to.
Yeah, exactly. And hers is like, fuck you, my husband invented the internet, because we find out that basically her, like, only relationship with her husband is being the wife of the man who invented the internet. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't have any time for her. They don't have a family. The one time they tried, she miscarried. And just, like, she's, like, this encounter with Roland kind of ends up shaking her loose from her life, and all of a sudden she's wondering if she's too old to get a divorce, and like she's realizing that she's just kind of... It happens too fast for it to be like... Just like, oh, she suddenly realized. Like, it was probably in the back of her head for a while.
This feels like a real Thelma and Louise moment.
How's that?
Have you seen the Thelma and Louise?
Yes, I think so, but if I did, it was when I was really young. Which...
You need to rewatch that fucking movie.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I watched that. Owen had never seen it, and I watched it with him a few months ago. And afterwards, he was like, "That was really fucking good." I was like, "I know, right?" It's like in my top 3 favorite movies ever.
Okay, I'll go back to that one because
But it's a couple women who are like on autopilot, and they both expected more, but when they don't get more, they don't really think they were being reasonable about what they expected, and just sort of accept the shit that they've got. And then a couple things happen, and they find themselves in some really intense situations, and it's making them reevaluate everything that they just, like, lived with, basically, and were okay with. And it's clear that it has been kind of in their mind a little bit, but it always feels... It's always felt like, yeah, but what's the point? A little bit every time that they've thought about trying to move forward and get what they want. And that's where I really think that movie was as successful as it is, because so many women were in that kind of position.
Yeah.
And they're still there, don't get me wrong. But because of the changes in societal expectations of women, and the fact that so many more women are able to work and thus have access to income that gives them a little bit more freedom than they ever had, they're able to have more choices.
Well, and that theme definitely keeps coming up in media. Because, like,
yeah.
Did you see the movie Spring Breakers that came out a few years ago?
No, I didn't. Did that have Hermione in it?
No. I don't think so.
Okay.
It had a bunch of people I don't know, because they're like... One of the takes about that movie was like, oh my god, it's these... They're not like Disney princesses, but they're like popular young female teen stars or something. And like it's a raunchier movie, right? It was like...
Okay, yeah.
I want to try and guess who they are, but I don't honestly know their names. I'll just end up like getting them mixed up with pop stars. But it's like way better than it has any right to be. And I don't know if, like, to kind of explain why it does the same thing would be a spoiler, so I don't know if I should do that or not.
Don't do it.
But suffice it to say, it's about these 4 girls who are in high school, I think, or like, yeah, they must be high school. It's either high school or it's like early college. But they're just like, lives are boring and miserable and awful, and they're just the one thing they're living for is that they get to go on spring break soon. And then they go on spring break, and lots of shit happens, and since I'm recommending this movie, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but what you were just talking about with Thelma and Louise reminds me very much of this film.
Okay, I got you.
It's got James Franco in it, and he's amazing. And
he has fucking cornrows, right?
Yeah, and I don't normally say he's amazing about James Franco, but...
Same. Alright, so yeah, guys, if you haven't seen Thelma and Louise, seriously, I'm not kidding. Like, go watch it as soon as you can. And I'm not the kind of person that says that about movies. I'm usually like, if you get a chance, you should totally see it. But this is a movie that if you haven't seen it, you should go find it now. And also, it has a fantastic soundtrack, which is weird because Hans Zimmer did it. Usually, he's kind of terrible. But
right.
That is a hella good soundtrack. Or score, I guess it's original.
Yeah, and Spring Breakers is really good, so everybody should go see that if you haven't.
Alright, so back on task. So they're driving, and then we get the thing where we go between Brian Smith and our heroes.
Yeah.
And some women on the side of the road, and back to Brian Smith. And this, I think, is super effective, and having all of Brian Smith's parts in italics is, like, really helpful to me. I don't know why.
It's
this
nice.
This is one of those things that I just really appreciate.
I really wished that we hadn't randomly gotten the perspective of the two old ladies in italics.
What? Oh,
not
was
like
that in italics?
Not like we didn't get it at all, but like that was also in italics, and I was like, so it was just like the portion of Brian Smith's narrative, I guess, but that kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, I guess it didn't bother me.
Yeah. I did just realize why they do the litter twins thing with he and Shimi. It's because his two dogs are litter twins. They mentioned that at the beginning of his introduction.
Gotcha.
Anyway, this guy's a dick. He's just driving fucking terribly because he's bad at driving. Like, it's not even... Is he drunk? I don't think he's drunk. I think he's bad at driving. Oh, he's probably high. That makes sense.
Yeah, because he says earlier that, like, that... You know, he had gotten down, not as down as he'd liked to get, but enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a little fucked up.
He's a little fucked up, and he's swerving on the road, trying to prevent his dogs from getting into the what is it, an ice chest or something?
Yeah, he's got a friggin' cooler with ground hamburger in it.
Yeah.
And his dogs are flipping out trying to get into it and eat it, and he is not a man capable of multitasking without sincerely fucking his shit up. So, this motherfucker almost kills two women.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, who are lucky enough to, like, have seen him coming and backed away just in time.
They're, like, older ladies, too. Like, they're kind of badass, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. And they're very aware because apparently King's, like, known in this area and goes walking all the time. And they know King's out there, and they're like, hopefully he sees this fucking crazy person.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Jake, after they pull into the house and they see that there's just some, like, landscaping dude there, Jake realizes that he's not there and then tries to reach out and touch him. And he can't touch Steven, inconveniently. But he can touch Brian and makes him have to go to the bathroom really bad so that he pulls over and it slows him down and buys them a little bit of time, which I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I do think it is the one thing that kind of messes it all up for me is that he can't touch King. He can touch this other dude, but okay, Roland can kind of touch King.
Yeah, I mean, Roland explains it by the fact that they had met and he had put him under hypnosis. Mm-hmm. It's thin. It's a little weak. It's a stretch.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll let it slide, but I definitely, like, kind of side-eyed it a little.
I mean, I guess Jake could have, like, made King have to go to the bathroom, but I'm not... Like, I'm just trying to figure out what Jake could have done that, like, Ka wasn't already doing. Mm-hmm. Like, go the fuck back, go the other way.
Right.
Because they have that great little bit where... And I say great in that I think it's very well written, although there's a lot of things that happen when King is writing himself that I find slightly grating. But every, like, instinct in his body is telling him that he should go back and write. Like, right now. He should go down the other road and go write his story, and never mind how hard it is. And he consciously ignores that voice. Yeah. And yeah, when Roland, like, wants to strangle him after he gets hit, I was like, I would probably have done it.
Right.
Like, I might have actually, you know, when people do that shit, I don't want to spoil. So you've seen Infinity War?
Yes.
You know how there's one character after Infinity War that everybody's super mad at because he fucked everything up? Mm-hmm. My attitude toward that is I would have done the exact same thing. I'm sorry. Like, I realize that it's not the smart or logical thing to do, but knowing myself, that would have been me.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I like to think, like, that I wouldn't. I don't know, though. I can be really bad about controlling my temper.
Yeah.
And I think that there is something to be said about things don't seem real to you until they happen. So a threat won't necessarily have the same, like, impact in hypothetical terms when you're faced with the actual, like, rage of something.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway.
But it is, I mean, it is made very clear that this all happened because Stephen King didn't fucking listen.
Yep.
Just couldn't fucking listen. Yeah, I don't know what that says about... Like, I'm kind of trying to process what that says about his... sort of the process he went through in writing this.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like... I don't know. I get... Like, I get that if you have a work unfinished, a near-death experience will, like, really change your life. I mean, in any case, a near-death experience will change your life, probably. Mm-hmm. And if you're a writer and you know, what you might go back to is, like, oh my god, I never got to finish that story. And I know that, like, you know, all the stories, King got letters in the hospital and everything, you know, and he got letters from people who were dying who wanted to know how the story ended and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it does still strike me as, like, dude, kind of, like, let up on yourself a little bit, man. Like, the universe wasn't actually in peril.
Well, I find it interesting because, like, it's funny that you say that, because part of what I liked about it is how uncompromising he seemed to be about the fact that he was avoiding something because it was going to be hard.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
That I just relate to so fucking hard. And I just sat down today to, quote, write, and spent, like, 2 straight hours looking up people, like, images of people to be my characters instead. Which is not something worth doing for 2 hours. At all, but, like, I would rather do anything than actually face the fact that I don't know what to write.
Yeah.
Or that I'm going to write something, and when it's something as huge and overwhelming as a series must be, to somebody who's, like, already really, really well known by the time he starts writing the series, right?
Sure.
And then it's book 4, and people are clamoring and desperate. The kind of pressure that must be on you to not fuck this up must be absolutely fucking suffocating. Like, I just think I would snap. So...
Yeah, I guess it's understandable. I guess I would just, like... I'm not, like... I've been there, obviously, but I think... My attitude toward it when I'm reading it is, like... is just like, hey, man, it's okay. You know, like, you know, you didn't write it. It's some shit happens, man, and I get that you just didn't want to do it. And in the fictional world you created for this, like, that's the worst possible thing you could have done. And I totally buy that part. Mm-hmm. But in the meta narrative, it seems a little bit like he's saying, like, God, I can't finish this book because I'm lazy, and it's the worst thing in the world that I'm lazy. And I'm like, dude, it's really not.
There's definitely a lot of self-loathing there, and I wonder if that's not, like, tied in with some other shit that he's dealing with like, addiction and stuff, you know, like...
Yeah, and I think it's because I recognize it that I have that reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, no, dude, don't do that to yourself. That sucks. Like...
Or maybe he just... Like... Maybe he just tried to... use the fact that he was picturing it as if his characters were, like, yelling at him, and just managed to turn that into something that came across a little too real. Like, he felt the pressure to keep writing, and in his mind, the pressure manifested as this, like, weird image of his characters being like, fucking dude, hello, are you gonna do this? And he was like, well, I don't want to. And then he realized, like, well, this is their actual existence as characters. And it just ballooned into this weird antagonistic thing with imaginary people. which would be kind of amazing.
Right.
Anyway. But
I just realized that the Stephen King perspective is in italics, too.
Yeah.
Man.
I guess it's maybe all of the things that really happened.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. I wonder, like, it makes you wonder, like, how, like, did he interview the driver? Like, you know,
right?
did he go find the guy? But I just realized that, like, that thing that annoyed me happened here too, and I focused on the one with the lady perspectives. I hate it when I do that. Sorry, guys.
So yeah, they're heading over there, and then we get the cutting in, and Roland gamely trying to be the one to save the day and failing.
Yeah, he tells Irene to pull in the pickup, like, right behind King. So, like, so the King is between the pickup truck and the van. Mm-hmm. And then he hops out of the car, ready to throw himself in front of the van, but his hip gives out, so he falls, and without even hesitating for a second, Jake does it instead.
I was annoyed that he didn't have her pull the car in front of King.
I mean, yeah.
Like, honestly, can you think of a good reason why he wouldn't do that? Because that seems like the friggin' logical thing to me. And I was, frankly, had to reread that sentence a couple times because I couldn't believe he chose something else because it made no sense to me.
I mean, alright, let me look at it
Having
again.
a person jump between a man and a van seems way less effective than a fucking other vehicle between the van and the man.
Between the van and the man.
Am I wrong here?
That's going to be my next album. No, I don't. I'm looking here. I'm trying to figure out why it happened. My guesses, if I had to try and handwave this, would be that A, it was the safest option. Like, they don't want to run over Stephen King, obviously, right? Or B, like, I mean, I was gonna say there wasn't time, but if there was time to jump out of the, I mean, I guess probably because he didn't want to endanger all of them, right? Like, if they pull the truck in front of the van, then him, Jake, and Irene and Noah are all going to...
If you fail, the world ends. Take the risk, guy. It's fine.
I mean, but, you know, he just knew that only one of them was going to die that day, Natasha. So, they couldn't run the risk of all of them dying, because that wouldn't work.
So, yeah, that, like, there's that really kind of bothered me a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
I like my last explanation. I like the fact that he didn't want to put, like, Jake and Irene in danger, you know?
It doesn't make sense to me that you wouldn't put it all on the line when it's already all on the line.
I mean, he figured he could jump out, right? Like, I don't know why.
But what is he going to do? Put up a hand and stop the van? No.
No, I think he was going to jump in front of it.
And do what? He doesn't... Nobody stopped the van, or even, like, Stephen King almost died anyway. This is just not well thought out. Oh, well.
Jake pulled King out of the way, right?
Yeah, like, he pulled and was still standing in the exact spot where the van came, where Stephen had been a second before. But the van has momentum because it's a fucking van. So even if you move somebody out of the way, unless you're able to launch them 20 feet... they're still very much in the path of the fucking vehicle, which it turns out is exactly the case.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to not take this seriously, but now I really want one of our shirts to say on the front, the van has momentum, and on the back, because it's a fucking van.
I sold one of my, my Stephen King quotes, not really shirts.
Oh, that's good.
So that was the only one, though.
Alright, well... I just like that. Yeah, it's not a great plan. And in this particular instance, it's making way more sense, like, symbolically than it is, like, logically. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of one of those things that you're, like, hand-waving away because this is the last Dark Tower book and everything happens for certain ways, and every song on the radio has 19 in the title, and clocks stop with 9 and 19, like, as the numbers, and it's just happening this way.
Yep. That's
One
about
thing,
it.
one thing that I'm, like, wondering, and, like, I know that, like, time paradoxes and shit are a thing and tiresome, but one thing I'm just curious about, like, if they hadn't saved King, like, if King had died, then would Roland's hip pain have gone away, or would he just have died too?
Oh my god. I have to think it would have just gone away.
Right.
But then everything would, like, slowly crumble, right? Anyway.
Yeah,
so.
that makes sense. Anyway, so that doesn't happen. What happens is that Jake jumps up, pulls King out of the way, misses Roland by inches, and hits Jake and, like, runs over his chest.
Yep.
And everything, I don't know, like, after this, there's some stuff with King and Roland, and there's some stuff with Roland and Brian, and, like, it's important in terms of, like, the plot.
The way that you're saying it, you're like, it's important.
I mean, okay, hold on, let me make sure it's important. I don't really know. I mean, it's like, he's just telling King to finish the damn books.
Right.
And he's telling Brian to forget that anything ever happened, and he's setting it up so that they were never here, and so that King gets medical attention, and that King, like, knows to finish the books. There's some like, stuff, lingering under all this, like, some kind of world-building stuff. But the thing that happens at this point is that Jake dies. Roland can't even be there when he dies.
Yeah.
Because he has to go take care of King and this other dude, and then Roland buries Jake and is filled with some really, really horrifically beautifully written grief.
Yep.
And it's, I don't know. I don't know how much you want to go into specifics. It's just really good, and, like, it's very tear-jerking. Like, the first time I definitely cried, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, this, well, first of all, as you said, the fact that he couldn't be there.
Yeah.
Because he had been spending time talking to two men he didn't even like, is the way that that's written, which I really think is affecting. And that is something I'm sure is relatable to a lot of people, is that they miss the moments that their parents died, or kids or whatever. And they missed it because of something infuriating. I don't have that experience because, I was away and it happened in the middle of the night, and, like, it was a whole other thing, so there's no way I would have been around.
Oh, right, yeah,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine how So, and then the description of how his eyes feel hot and he can't seem, and he's, like, not crying and then starts to worry that he won't be able to cry.
Oh, God. Oh, that got me.
Completely been there.
Yes.
Completely. And it is a moment where you're just like, is there something fucking literally wrong with me? Literally,
Yes.
is my brain broken? Like, what's happening? And how I think the actual wording is his eyes felt like hot stones in his head.
I think so, yeah.
Which it's like they're burning, and you're like, if tears would be great, it would just feel better physically right now, actually. And then when he finally is able to do it, and he, like, is crying but silently, and then just, like, lets out one sob. That's how I cry. I will be, unless it's really bad, but usually I don't, like, kind of let myself go there. I cry in silence until I have to breathe. And then it's like, one of those, like, gasping, choking sounds.
Yeah, yeah.
And he does that, and that's when Oi hears him, and Oi starts, like, yowling again for a second.
Oh my god, Oi in this part.
It's just brutal.
It's bad. It's like, I don't know, it's not as bad, I think, as it would have been if Oi had died and, like, Jake had been on the other side. Mm-hmm. Like, if Jake had been mourning Oi, I think that would have been worse for me.
Right.
Just because, like, you know, I had pets die when I was younger and shit like that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But, like, you know, and Oi's far more than a pet, of course. But it's just, like, because Oi can cry and, like, and the fucking eye ache thing. Good lord. Good lord.
Some stuff is just mean-spirited.
Yeah, like, it's super effective. But it's super effective, like, a punch in the balls is effective at taking me down to my knees.
Right.
Like, yeah. It's like, it'll work. I wish you wouldn't do it, but it'll work. Yeah, this is just, you know, it's rough. And for Roland to realize, like, I think the really important thing here is that Roland is thinking to himself, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. Why did I keep going? Like, I dragged this kid to his death for the tower, and he thinks to himself, I would give anything up, like, I would give anything to bring him back. Mm-hmm. And it's the first time ever that we've gotten any sort of acknowledgement that Roland would do anything, like, that involves giving up the tower.
Yep.
So it's a really important chapter, just in terms of who he is.
Yeah.
And we'll get to all the stuff that happens with Irene later, but, like, it's a different character in a lot of, like, the part where he tells her that he's afraid to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. It's like, I did not see those words coming from your mouth in any version of this story, ever. And it's just, yeah, it's just a fundamental change in character. I love it. I think it's great. I think that everything here involving Roland's mourning process is king of the highest quality.
Yeah, agreed. I think that King writes grief particularly well. I don't know what other shit he has gone through, but either he has experienced it or he is really empathetic and can, like, read it somehow on people and writes it very well because of that.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, whenever it's this kind of stuff, he seems to tap into it really well. And the tension of this timing thing, like, see, this is the kind of shit that felt like it was completely missing in so many of the other instances in these books.
I agree.
Is this tension, this being like, and I know what's going to happen. I know King's going to be okay. It's the other stuff that I don't know about. So that's the part that I feel like he kind of missteps in some of the other major moments where he makes it like, well, who knows what's gonna, and it's like, you can tell me what the ending is, and it won't spoil the middle if you just write it well. But it feels like he has to heap on all of this false manipulative tension instead of just trusting the way that he writes a scene. And it's almost like it's self-conscious. Like he doesn't trust himself. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a weird thing.
I think one thing that happened is that he kind of lost he kind of he lost the handle on his characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of this that we're talking about works so well because of Roland and Jake as characters. Their interactions with each other over the course of 7 books now, because Jake was in all of them, except maybe he might not have been. No, he wasn't. He was enjoying the 3, just like vaguely.
Mm-hmm.
But it works because it feels real, because we know these people and we know this, and we were all kind of knowing / hoping that this is what would happen to Roland if anything ever happened to Jake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because this is not the dude who dropped him.
Right.
And it's that payoff to these characters and their relationship is so cathartic, and it's so mesmerizing and beautiful, and it works because we know who they are, and King knows who they are, and King, and everything is based on the characters. And I think that, like, in earlier parts of this book and a couple of the others, he just gets lost. He gets lost in the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
He gets lost in how he's going to make all this tie into his other work. He gets lost in this larger picture he's trying to paint. And we talked so many times about how, you know, that doesn't feel like Susannah, or why wasn't Susannah in the book?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, even Jake, like, at the beginning of book 5, kind of not the most recognizable character.
Yeah.
Because, like, all of a sudden he's a great... And I get that, like, time has passed, but, like, all of a sudden he's a great gunslinger and he has the touch, like, really strongly.
Right.
And it's just... I just think he got lost with the characters. I think he lost sight of them. And that's why he kind of had to resort to that cheap, like, overt narrative tension, those techniques. Mm-hmm. Because, like, there wasn't anything going on between these people. And this is just the opposite of that. Like, this is him getting it. And I feel like you can kind of tell that King had this for a while. Like, he knew this was happening for a while, and how Roland would react to it. It feels like something that's been, like, one of those things that you come up with before you come up with the rest of it. You know what I mean? I could be wrong.
So, yeah, he winds up, he hypnotizes King and tells him to tell everybody that it was only 2 people here. Him and the dude who hit him.
Right.
And to write the fucking book, you fucking fuck.
In those words, I believe.
Basically. And then he goes and talks to other dude and tells him to go get help and to come back, because this guy could do a runner easy. Yeah. Most people would, let's be honest.
Especially you hit Stephen King with a fucking car? Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Which he's acutely aware of that. I do love how he keeps telling them that he hasn't even gotten a parking ticket ever in his life.
Yep.
Even though it's established at the beginning that he has had his driver's license taken away on multiple occasions.
Yup.
So.
Yeah, that's something that's always been, and I know that people do this, but, like, the whole thing about lying about something that is easily disprovable has always been really, like, baffling to me. And like I said, I know plenty of people do it. It takes like 2 seconds to find out certain things, and they'll still stand there and say straight to your face, and you're just like, really? But yeah, this guy is such a fucking disaster. I really do just wish he died. I don't know that the guy who hit him was actually like this guy. I don't think King really talks about him. I think the guy who hit him was on the older side, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest.
That it was like somebody who was kind of just didn't have great sight and was just going a little too fast and was older and their reflexes weren't great is what I think really happened. But
get at us on Twitter, guys.
Yeah, let me know.
You're going to anyway, so.
But he deals with that dude, and then he tells the woman to go and come back once the cops are gone.
Right.
And he's going to take care of Jake, and he takes the tarp out of the back of the truck. and goes down with Oi. And he starts to dig the grave. And then he hears the ambulance come and goes up to, like, check that everything is okay.
Right.
And fucking Brian, it's talking to King in the most cheerful manner.
Yeah, they're like they're striking up a good old friendship.
It's super weird. Like, what are you doing?
I can see it. I mean, that didn't ring that didn't ring hollow to me or false.
I don't want to say that it rang hollow so much as I put it down to the hypnosis. You know, like, I just don't see casually being like, no, it looks like it's broken in 6 or 7 places.
Yeah, that was
real,
weird.
Like, you know, kind of lackadaisical. And then, yeah, I hit you. Sorry.
I think
like what this what?
Yeah, Brian's response is weird. I found King's response pretty natural. Like, if he doesn't know the guy is on drugs. He doesn't know the guy is, you know, was swerving off the road and should not, under any circumstances, be driving a vehicle. So it's like, as far from his perspective, it's all a terrible accident, and like he's still dazed and in shock. So it's like, yeah, hi, I'm Stephen King.
Right. Like, and yeah, I think his responses were less puzzling to me. It was mainly the reaction of Brian, because he seemed to be, like, in a straight panic when Roland tells him, you know, to go get help and make sure to come back. But then once he's actually talking to the victim, who is lying broken on the ground, he seems fine.
Right.
So I was a little bit like, that's... But again, I put that down to the hypnosis. I really kind of think that's maybe what we're supposed to think is going on there.
You know what's interesting is that, and you know, Jake told Irene some stuff too. We should mention that that's slowly coming out. But one thing I find interesting about this, and just kind of the last comment on the whole like character versus narrative driven scenes here, is that this stuff has a lot of like what I think King is going for with the stuff that we find so annoying, like the little fucking things you do for no reason that like can change the entire course of events. Like there's the thing where Brian could have just put his cooler up on his passenger seat and like everything would have been fine.
Right.
But he just like didn't do that. And like I think here it's done so much more effectively. It's very nuanced. It's not hammered. You know, it's like all that stuff is still there. It's just secondary to the character dynamics, which I think is the way to go. So I don't know. That just kind of hit me, and I wanted to say something about it before I forgot about it again. But yeah, Irene was actually with Jake when he died, and Jake had some instructions for her.
Yeah, actually, because you mentioned, I want to go back. Wait,
oh yeah, okay.
Because what you mentioned about like the putting the cooler on the seat, like again, it's how he writes it. He doesn't do. And rather than putting it on the seat, which would have changed everything, and he doesn't fucking beat you over the head with it. He just goes, he didn't do the thing that most people would have done. The easy thing. The simple, straightforward thing.
Didn't even occur to him.
Yeah, he doesn't even think of it. Because that's who this guy is. And it's these little things that add up. But he doesn't say, it's these little things that all add up.
Right,
he just lets them add up. He lets them happen, and he lets the reader piece it together that this was another tiny factor that changed everything.
Yeah.
Instead of fucking spoon-feeding it to us. Trust your readers like this more, King.
Yeah,
you can do it. It's fine.
And again, it's like, it's not like coming in the form of a direct message from the narrator. It's like, it never would have occurred to him to just put the cooler up there. It's like, okay, well, it would have been nice if it had. Tell me what happens now that it didn't. Yep. You know, and so, yeah. But I do want to talk about Irene here. She, she goes off to get her car, basically. And she goes to her house, which she shares with her husband, and we get more details about her and him. Apparently he works for some company called, was it Positronics? Something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Positronics, building the future, one circuit at a time.
Yo, there's some really cool t-shirts on the TeePublic thing, and like I can curate stuff into my own store even if I didn't design it. And there are some really cool, like, North Central Positronics or Only Strikes at Midworld Lanes, like, design t-shirts and stuff. If you guys are interested in that stuff, you should check it out. It's unspoiledpodcast.com/merch. And there are different albums, and there's a Dark Tower album. And it didn't even occur to me that people would be making merch with that kind of stuff on it. But of course they are, and it looks really awesome. So when I saw that there, I was like, oh shit, if they made magnets, that'd be so great, because you could get a North Central magnet just like the one actually in the book, which would be fun. But I don't think they do magnets. I think they do stickers.
Ah, shame.
Shame. Ruining everything. But yeah.
I do like that she like replaces it on the fridge.
Right.
Just like for no reason. But yeah, and then of course when she comes back, which Roland is not positive she's going to do, and he's not positive that Oi is going to come with him, but he does. Mm-hmm. And she says, I can't put a marker there on his grave, but later on I could plant something. And Roland's like, yeah, could you plant a rose? And I have all the feelings. Yeah.
That was really, like, I just appreciated simply that she offered to do that, which was really kind.
She's pretty great, as we've said before. She's...
You know, I mean, even though she was trying to talk shit.
I mean, she's Republican.
You know, like, I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
I don't know if she would wear a MAGA hat, but, you know, what are you going to do?
I don't think she would, strangely.
We'll just pretend she wouldn't.
I think, like, in her... Prior to this story, like, she might have if her husband did. Mm. But, like, after this, I feel like she's not going to be wearing that MAGA hat at all.
Well, let's fucking hope.
So, yeah, she's like, really sweet to Roland, and I just love that we get the most unpleasant possible picture of her at the beginning, and she turns out to be this really cool lady who is, like, ridiculously self-aware and just really takes this experience and runs with it. Mm-hmm. And part of that experience involves acting on Jake's instruction. She is to drive Roland to New York City, and on the way they gotta get to a couple hotels along the way, and they bone. And
he's not really that thrilled about it.
He's not into it.
I mean, he does it because he can sense that she needs it, which is such a weird...
It's like, why would she need it? She might want it.
To make her feel alive.
I guess so. Oh, that's kind of weird.
You know?
But yeah, I do like that she's like, hey, like, would it help? Like, would it help you if, like, we got naked together? Mm-hmm. And he thinks about it, and he's like, yeah, I think it would. She's like, cool, let's do that.
Yeah.
You know? And she's like, I think it says she was 47. Something like that.
I don't remember, but that seems right.
Yeah, she's like, you know, she's middle-aged, but she's...
There is some real uncomfortable shit, though. Like, King was like, she didn't take off her panties because she hadn't trimmed her bush. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You know what? Let's just... Don't need that. Appreciate it.
There's a lot of stuff in there about her self-image, which I thought was fine. Again, she's a very self-aware person, so it makes sense that she would kind of be having these thoughts, like they don't come out of nowhere. Especially because she definitely has the hots for Roland, and she's kind of thinking about how attractive she is and all that stuff.
Right.
But I don't know. I think maybe like it could have been cut down a little bit.
I don't like the self-image stuff. I don't even mind, because that's like, you know, of course you're just going to kind of evaluate yourself once you're like looking at a prospective partner. It's really more the detail in which her, like, it's just awkward. And then, like, he pressed against her and she felt the considerable weight of his package. And I'm just like, I just don't need any of this at all. None of it. That'd be fine.
I did love that there's one moment where he's like, I think he's like pinching her nipple or something. Mm-hmm. And she just thinks to herself, oh, this was so weird.
This is so fucking weird.
Which, in that moment, I was like, oh, God, all right, thank you. There's some realism right there.
Yeah, exactly.
But, no, I think it's fine. It's just, I like that he is portraying her as this imperfect person who is middle-aged, childless, had a miscarriage, had to have surgery for cancer. Like, she's got all these kind of scars on her. I just think it could have been treated a little bit, like, to the extent that there was salaciousness, there didn't have to be. Mm-hmm. There wasn't much, but what there was could have been ditched.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
But yeah, they have sex, and she loves it.
Yeah. It's like making love to a dream.
And then she dreams of the tower that night. But his mind is in other places.
Yeah.
Which,
almost literally.
Yeah. and it's like I just love it. It's again. It's like, why does Roland find comfort in this? Well, because Roland spends a lot of time fucking, y'all.
Yep.
This is what he knows. Yeah, and then that's about it, right?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. They get down, and then that's the end of the chapter. His penis was limp at the beginning. I don't know if you knew that.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I did know that. Thanks. Son of a bitch.
And I always just chilled there, too.
Oh, Oi. I feel so bad for poor Oi. He's a good boy, and he deserves better.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, alright. Well,
so that's everything.
That's that chapter.
Dun, dun, dun.
So I went through and I kind of blocked out the rest of the book for what I think we should do in terms of, like, how many chapters and everything.
Okay.
So, right now, I think we have 7 episodes left of this book.
Okay.
It may be a bad idea, but I think the way I was looking at it today makes a lot of sense. So, it's going to be... Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, 7 episodes left, by my calculations.
I like the way that you said that, like it was some sort of really deep, days-long kind of project to figure it out.
By my arbitrary decision-making, 7 episodes left.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and then we get to do Wind Through the Keyhole, right?
Yeah, Wind Through the Keyhole, and then there's like a short story.
I'm trying to read Wind Through the Keyhole right now, guys. It's not...
Oh, yeah,
not grabbing me.
You started to say something about that last time, and then I told you to wait until we were recording to talk about it, and then we never talked about it.
Oh, really?
So, what was it that was, you're just not, like, into it?
I mean, it's not bad. I'm just like... I don't know. It's a flashback. I mean, that's the thing about it. It's like... I mean, not to give anything away or anything, but it's like it's just a story being told. Like back in the day, this happened, and it's not... I don't know. Thus far, it's having a really hard time making me care what happens next. Okay. Hopefully that'll change. This happens to me a lot with King. So, where it's just like, all right, man, like you got 300 pages or whatever, like 100 pages, 200 pages. You have a finite amount of time to make me really care what happens next in this story. In certain of his works, that won't be named right now. Insomnia. I just like that timer runs out. You know what I mean? It's just like you can't care anymore. But hopefully, when he'll grab me. It's not bad writing. It's just
All right. Well, depending, we maybe can cover that one in like bigger sections so that it's not drawn out as much. So.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. I don't know. I've really enjoyed doing this show, but it comes to a point where you're like, all right, Dark Tower, it's time to be done.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so I want to say hi to new patrons real quick.
Do it.
We just have 2 this week. Gallifrey Sparrow and Miss Mech became patrons, so welcome to both of you. There are a bunch of you that recently joined the Discord and the Facebook patrons only group. Thank you for doing that. If you haven't already, make sure to message me to get the link. It should have come in your little welcome message that you got when you joined on Patreon, but if it didn't, just let me know. And currently, there's a couple people who signed up at the $20 mark, and I'm doing some bi-weekly shows with Rashawn called Unsober, in which we drink and talk about a random subject every week. And this week's was monarchy due to events. It was a really fun episode. And Rashawn went on a bit of a tear, which was really fun to listen to, because she doesn't do that often. But she really did. And had some fun facts about what Miss Meghan Markle is no longer allowed to do, i.e. anything fun, now that she is a princess, Duchess of Sussex. And it's something that it's at a higher tier because Rashawn and I are splitting the proceeds. So everybody who pledges at that level, I'm only getting half of that because I am paying Rashawn, because I'm trying to employ her to a degree, kind of, if I can. So yeah, that's what's going on with that.
Y'all should pay up for that, because she deserves it.
It's really fun to do too, because I don't have any podcasts that are not based on some kind of media. So, I get to just pick. So next week, we were going to do it this week, but because of the wedding, it just changed everything that we wanted to talk about. So next week's episode, when we record, will be on Seinfeld, because she just keeps asking me if we can do an episode on Seinfeld. So that's what that's going to be on.
The royal wedding.
That
was a thing that happened, I believe.
It was a good time. And for those of you who want to learn some weird facts about that and about the monarchy, and to hear the perspective of a black woman watching a really relatively black as fuck wedding. And I say relatively because, as compared to the white isn't even the adequate term. There was just transparent previous weddings. This was really something. And Rashawn is very excited about it.
I feel like there might be some of the power of the white might have been missing from that wedding.
Oh, God.
I'm wondering if anybody looked upon Prince, whichever one it was. I don't even know.
I'm really glad that hasn't fucking popped up again.
It's it's shown up a couple of times, in passing, but not really with any. Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't leaned on it, and I was concerned that it was going to become more and more of a thing as we got closer. And it still might, because we've got plenty to go here. But,
yeah.
I hope that that's one thing that King looks back on and is like, ooh, that didn't age real well.
Right. I think he would probably be able to recognize that.
Yeah.
I think that it was weird, the gardener, bowing to him or kneeling in front of him because he saw him, surrounded by white light.
Yeah,
was weird.
that was weird.
Yeah.
Because What's-Her-Face didn't see that.
No, it didn't seem like anyone else did, which was bizarre, but who knows? Anyway.
Indeed.
If you want to be invested with the power of the white, go fucking elsewhere.
Good God. I didn't know where you were going with that, Miles. You worried me. All right, sir, take it away.
All right. Speaking of going elsewhere, you should all go over to mjschneiderman.com, which is where you can find links to everything that I do on the internet right now. At least that's available for public consumption. The other stuff you can't see. I'm sorry. One of those things is the Smash Fiction podcast, and that is a fun show where my friends and I debate who would win in fights between fictional characters in various contests of skills or smarts or fights or whatever. And it's a lot of fun. I'm trying to...
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm actually doing well for once, or at least as well as I get, and you're over here derailing me. Anyway, so we do... the way our show is working these days is every other week we put out a regular episode of Smash Fiction, which is 2 characters in competition. And then the other 2 weeks out of the month are divided between Extraordinary League, which is an actual RPG podcast that we do once a month in our regular feed, and Smash Metafiction, which is also in our regular feed, and where we kind of go back and forth between... I think there are now like 3 kind of fun creative games that we play on the show. So the most recent episode is one of those. It's called Shipwrecked, and it's the very first edition of it, and it involves... everybody choosing a fictional character unbeknownst to the others, and then doing like basically a dating game thing.
Nice.
And basically like improvising and playing these characters. I was not part of the first one, but it's very good, and you should all go listen to it, because I got to listen to it for the first time when it came out for once, and I was laughing so hard. It was so funny. And I just say that as a credit to the creative ability of my co-hosts, because I would not have been able to do half those things. And then we have an episode coming up this coming Sunday that y'all might be particularly interested in, because it is a Smash Fiction match involving Roland Deshane. And he is up against Vash the Stampede, from an anime called Trigun, who is also a gunslinger of a sort. And, of course, y'all know I'm there defending Team Roland over here. So, tune in for that. That's coming out this Sunday. Pretty sure my wife is editing it right now, because she's awesome. And, that's coming out. You can check out the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast, which is my other podcast, where I host and produce a show about like stories that people tell about their lives based on a common theme. New full live episode of that show, well, not live, but like the recording of the live show that we do every month, will be released this Friday. The theme of that, I think, is fake. I believe it is the fake show coming out this Friday. And yes, there is at least one story about faking orgasms, so don't you worry about that. And in the meantime, while you're over there, you can go check out my science fiction blog, Universes of the Mind, over at www.universesofthemind.com. Assuming, of course, that you haven't already read the existing content on that site, because there is most assuredly no new content since last time. So, go check that out.
Oh, bless.
Oh. The day that I announced there's finally something new is going to be a truly momentous day at this point. I like that we're building up to this.
Guys, this has all been such a project. I hope you appreciate it all. All right, sir. Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having me, as always. It's a good time.
Thank you to my delightful listeners. Make sure to leave a review. We just got a negative review. They said 5 stars when they actually talk about the book, but the review itself was 2 stars. So if you listen and you like our show, why don't you go and, mitigate the damage of that there review by leaving us a good one?
I'm confused about that, because even if it was 5 stars, like, it's 5 stars when we're talking about the book. So even if it was 1 star when we weren't, it feels like that should still average out to 3 stars, doesn't it? I
agree with you.
And I don't think we're 1 star when we're talking about tangential shit. I think we're like 2 at worst. I would have left a 4-star review, sir and or madam.
Well, this person has clearly not gotten through much Yeah. Also, I could tell by the way that they wrote it that they're like early on in the series. So maybe they'll go back and edit their review because you can't do that.
I'm gonna go with they're not listening anymore.
Well, they said we'll see if they talk about it more. Like they said it as if they were going to continue listening.
Okay.
So we'll
All
see.
Right.
But yeah, if y'all want to, throw us some support, I actually posted something on the Unspoiled page day before yesterday, or maybe it was yesterday now. That was just about supporting people who produce 90% of their work completely for free. Because I totally get that not everybody can become a patron, but there are ways to compensate people for doing a ton that you consume. And this goes for, I was thinking about this a lot because of something that happened recently where Adam, and I can't remember his last name, but he's a cartoonist, and all of you have seen his shit. One of his the favorites that he's done for me is of the... there's a spoof of an Ariel cartoon where it's beautiful women who are half fish, half woman. And then you see a goldfish with woman legs going, "Hey, Prince Eric, let me see that dick." And I never don't laugh when I look at that thing. But apparently Cold Stone Creamery totally swooped in and stole his work. And
oh, really?
Like, edited it poorly and then used it in a bunch of their ad campaigns. And he knew that he wasn't going to be able to actually get compensated, so he had to shame them into donating the money to a charity of his choice, because he knew that that would be the only way that they would ever actually pay up anything. But he couldn't take the money himself, or else they would have ignored him.
That is so fucked up.
Yeah, and this is the thing when, like, it's always been hard as a creative to get paid, but it has been hard in that it was hard to find a platform. Now, everybody has a platform.
Everybody's got a fucking platform, yeah.
But nobody has the ability to be paid. And so we're creating and putting out tons and tons of work for nothing, just hoping that somebody will be able to help us out and throw some money our way. And it's not like, I don't even want to, I am not trying to lay this purely at the feet of consumers, because the economy is such that a lot of us would love to help out our creators and give them more than we do, but we can't because we are also poor.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a shitty system, and we're all trying to kind of like navigate our way through it. And I posted a list of ways that you can do that. And the number one thing is, if the creator that you love, whose work you consume and look forward to, is on a platform that allows for reviews, do that. Like, bare minimum. That is the number one thing that you can do to support them, is leave a review. Other stuff, sharing from their Facebook page, commenting on their stuff because that boosts them up in the algorithm. Tagging them in comment sections to let other people know who might be interested in their work. Anything that gets more eyes to their pages, their websites, their Twitters, their iTunes pages. All of that stuff is opening up the door for more potential patrons. So even if you can't pledge, you can draw people over there who maybe can. And you can turn that into money indirectly for the creator that you want to help out. So I really am trying to encourage people as much as they can to like take that kind of thing into account, because I see so many people being like, I really wish that I could pledge when I can't. And I'm like, I totally get that. If you can't, that's fine. But there is a lot of stuff that you could be doing if you want. So,
well, and the other thing about it is that, like, so much of the tiny amount of money you make as a creative person gets put back into the project.
Yeah, sure fucking
like,
does.
It's like you take the money, it's like, great, that's not going to pay my rent, dude. Mm-hmm. That's going to fucking go to getting me better equipment, or trying to buy advertising, or
pay back my taxes.
Yeah,
Hi.
that too. We're not talking about that right now, Natasha. I'm not going to think about that yet.
Hello.
But yeah, you know,
decorate the hole, Miles. Just decorate the hole. Live in it. It's fine.
Did you see the thing that was it was going around yesterday, I think, or maybe today, on Facebook, and it was like an article that said, contradictory studies find that millennials are spending less money on groceries, but also dining out less. It's like,
and they were like, yeah, that's a real weird way to say that they're starving and can't afford food.
Going hungry is the result of that data. That is the conclusion.
And that's the one thing, like, Owen pays for our housing and everything related to that. I am in charge of groceries. And let me tell you, I could barely handle it. Food is a fucking fortune. It's stupid. Oh, God. But anyway, this is not about my financial woes, and I'm not trying to put this on you, like I said, you guys. But just, do the little things. If you are on subreddits about the Dark Tower, where you talk about this shit, or about just fantasy novels in general, like, mention Unspoiled. If you're in a comments section where people are talking about Stephen King books, link back to the Facebook page. It's like little stuff like that has a crazy impact. You might not think it's a big deal, but I remember when I very first started doing podcasting and I had the time and the only one show to keep track of, where I would check where a lot of our traffic was coming from. And somebody mentioned us in a Reddit on A Song of Ice and Fire, and we got like 60 new subscribers that day. Just from one person mentioning it.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, it's hugely, hugely impactful. So...
yeah. And while you're in those forums, mention that Roland's also in a match on the Smash Fiction podcast.
There you go.
If they're just general Stephen King forums, then you can also talk about the Jack Torrance versus Annie Wilkes match that we had a while back. And, patreon.com/Smash Fiction podcast, guys. In addition to Unspoiled, of course. I still feel like really shitty, like on a semi-regular basis, that I'm not a patron of your show.
I don't even think about that. Like, somebody else mentioned that too, another co-host. I don't remember who it was, and I was just like, oh, that didn't even occur to me. It's fine.
It's changing soon. I'm gonna do it.
I only pledged to 2 shows, and one of them is doing like an extra bonus thing that I could not care less about. But sometimes you just want to be like, hey, guys, I see you, and you're great.
So if I pledge $1 on Patreon to Unspoiled, and then you go and pledge $1 on Patreon to Smash Fiction...
Are we just spitting in each other's mouths?
Would we be better off just not spending any money?
Probably. It's a very symbolic gesture, I guess. You would get access to playlists and stuff if you want that. And
you would get access to all of our bonus content, which is tremendous.
Well, there you go. So that's something.
That is
and
something.
If we decide that we're going to start Black Mirror up again, you can go bone up on our old episodes and re-listen to where we were as tiny children 4 years ago.
Oh my gosh, was that 4 fucking years ago?
Yeah, yep, it sure was.
Good Lord.
Back in the days.
Person. We're both old people. We're the same age, right? Pretty sure the same age.
33.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, all right. We've tried to end this like 7 times. I swear we're done now, guys. Thank you so much. We love you. Kisses. Hugs.
And also...
toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.